Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. To put the news in the parlance of SpaceX, it seems Elon Musk's career as co-president to Donald Trump has had a bit of a rapid, unscheduled disassembly. Technically, it was kind of scheduled. His Doge campaign was always billed as temporary. But less than 6 months into this administration, the man who came in like some kind of MAGA rock star who was jumping around at Trump rallies, appeared in every cabinet meeting, seemed to be running the cabinet meetings, spoke to adoring crowds at CPAC, is now unceremoniously slinking out the side door. And I want to be clear here and be fair-minded, clear-eyed. By every conceivable metric, Musk's stint in government has been an unmitigated, abject failure. Any way you look on it. On the substance, it's just been wildly destructive and also volatile. Remember, like it was the email to everyone. What'd you do? 3 things. And then they just abandoned that. A lot of lifelong experts in key positions in our federal government have lost their jobs and we can't get them back. Important medical research. I mean, groundbreaking stuff has been paused or destroyed, possibly indefinitely. Government agencies across the board are functioning worse. If you talk to people in the government and you read the reporting, they are functioning worse than they were before. There are also enormous, almost sort of unspeakably large ramifications for people in the global south, where the Musk-led cuts to foreign aid will lead to incomprehensibly needless suffering. I mean, people will most definitely die as a result of cuts to AIDS relief program PEPFAR. In fact, Musk's fellow billionaire Bill Gates warns that cuts to USAID could cost millions of lives throughout the world, after Musk bragged about putting the agency through the wood chipper. So Musk did enormous substantive damage, both to our own country, to other people, some of the most vulnerable abroad. That's going to be hard to repair. But even by his own standards, because I don't think he cares about that, his so-called cost-saving efficiency program, Doge, was a total failure as well. I mean, the world's richest man promised to cut, remember, federal spending by $2 trillion with a T dollars. Okay? By his own website's shoddy math, he managed to cut just $1.75 billion. That's less than 1/1000th of what he promised. He barely made a dent. It's a rounding error. Even the libertarian Cato Institute, which is ideologically very supportive of Doge's mission, wrote that Musk, quote, has overpromised and underdelivered on verifiable spending cuts. It was all a con. I mean, part of this is that Musk assumed, like so many people do, that the government is full of lazy bureaucrats who can be fired without any meaningful consequences. But even one of his own Doge insiders had to concede it's not actually true. In an interview, tech founder Sahil Lavinia, who Musk placed at the VA, said, quote, I would say the culture shock is mostly a lot of meetings, not a lot of decisions, but honestly, it's kind of fine because the government works. It's not as inefficient as I was expecting, to be honest. I was hoping for more easy wins. Adding that now that he's there, he says he finds himself surrounded by people who love their jobs, who came to the government with a sense of mission driving their work. Now, like most administration officials who accidentally say true things, that guy got fired for that interview. But Americans in general did not like the behavior and the cruelty of Doge. And now Elon Musk, with what is left of his tattered reputation, is doing media interviews trying to reboot his image and distance himself from it all.
You know, it's not like I agree with everything the administration does. So it's like I agree with much of what the administration does, but we have differences of opinion. There are things that I don't entirely agree with. But it's difficult for me to bring that up in an interview because then it creates a bone of contention. So then I'm a little stuck in a bind where I'm like, well, I don't want to, speak out against the administration, but I don't want to. I also don't want to take responsibility for everything the administration is doing.
I mean, again, you got to just concede it where it is. I mean, this is a guy who is profoundly charismatic, silver-tongued, eloquent, amazing communicator. Yes, it is a tough spot to be associated with those toxic Trump policies. Maybe that explains the sudden, massive unpopularity. But this is you, right?
This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy. Chainsaw!
Did you feel that down into your toes? That full body cringe? Well, Musk is now leaving in disgrace because lots of people felt that way when they were around him. He was wholesale rejected by about everyone. We've seen report after report after report that everyone simply couldn't stand the guy. Doesn't matter how rich he is. Back in March, the New York Times reported on an explosive cabinet meeting where Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, and Veterans Affairs Secretary Doug Collins all tore into Musk for his haphazard cuts in their respective agencies. Earlier this month, The Atlantic reported on an expletive-ridden screaming match between Musk and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent that spilled out from the Oval Office into more public areas of the West Wing. That same article also quotes the General Counsel for the American Federation of Government Employees as saying, quote, "We kicked him out of town. If he had stayed in the shadows and done this stuff, who knows how bad it would have been, but no one likes the guy." No one likes the guy might be the best summation of Musk's forays into American politics I've encountered. His Waterloo, sort of electorally speaking, came in April. Remember that in the state of Wisconsin? Remember what he did there? Guy thought he was so popular, that he was such a good politician himself, that he flew in from out of state and wore a cheese head and flexed his newfound political muscles in the state Supreme Court race. And he spent a small fortune of his own money in support of the conservative candidate Brad Schimel, and it didn't work. His candidate lost by 10 points. And voters, they really didn't like Musk.
He's just a pushy billionaire, and he's cutting everything. The people need these things he's cutting.
He just makes me very angry. He uses money in ways that we're not used to. And I really think that, you know, he should just stay out of local politics. He should stay out of all politics, frankly.
That Wisconsin woman is not alone. In fact, voters everywhere don't like him. Nate Silver's polling average shows Musk's public approval more than 14 points underwater. That's bad. About 54% of Americans saying they disapprove of the billionaire. And Musk's intrusion into national politics has also had very real financial consequences for his companies. I mean, he's lost billions of dollars, at least sort of on paper, since he spent more than $270 million to get Trump elected last year. Tesla sales, the sort of crown jewel company of his, are down huge, especially in Europe, where they crashed nearly 50% year over year last month because Musk has absolutely poisoned the brand with his own toxic reputation. Here in the States, according to one report, quote, "A shopping center with a shuttered Bed Bath & Beyond store is in violation of a Detroit suburbs city code for storing dozens of Tesla vehicles on its parking lot." That's because there's so much inventory of these Cybertrucks, they can't get rid of it. I don't think it's a good news for your car manufacturer when your flagship luxury trucks are just sitting unsold in a random parking lot somewhere outside of Detroit, possibly drawing municipal citations. In fact, Tesla shareholders are now saying the company's in crisis, sending a letter to the company demanding, this is pretty funny, Musk return to work full time. That's an interesting idea for the CEO. Now, thankfully for them, it looks like he's going to have some more time on his hands right now. And so, again, in every conceivable way, Musk leaves the government worse off than he found it. His tenure in Washington was a complete failure, substantively and politically, and to his own reputation and to his own companies. He got high in his own supply. He convinced himself, because he's worth a lot of money, that everyone loves him, that the American public would fall in love with his antics. And it turns out they would really much rather he just go away. Claire McCaskill is a former Democratic senator in Missouri. David French is an opinion columnist for the New York Times, and they join me now. Claire, I think, what do you think that sort of obituary on his tenure in the government is going to read?
Yeah, well, I think you ran through it all and covered the territory pretty well. Unlikable, full of himself, immature, arrogant, wildly rich beyond most people's imagination. But at the core of it, Chris, I think he didn't really understand a democracy. business leaders have an arrogance about them when it comes to government. They think too often, well, there are very smart people in government. The people who work for government are less than, and I run a big company and I know how to do it. But most of them, if they had to operate within a democracy, would probably fail like Musk did.
Yeah.
He didn't understand the basics of a democracy, that you don't take radical steps without the support of the people. And I've got a newsflash for him. Debts and deficit are not high on the list of issues of the American people. If they were, we wouldn't have any. Trump didn't campaign on him. I've never had a big people demonstrate in Missouri about debts and deficit.
Yeah,
so what he was trying to do, he did with he didn't do with a scalpel. And really, honestly, if he'd done it strategically and carefully and slowed down to get bipartisan support, he would have gotten more done. Never $2 trillion. But he would have gotten more done and probably not done the damage he's done to millions of people across the globe.